I stared at the piece of paper that just ruined my entire life, and I realized that silence is the loudest sound in the world. It was just a Tuesday. A regular boring Tuesday where the sky was that flat shade of gray and the coffee tasted like burnt mud. I was standing in my kitchen in a house that cost too much money, listening to the hum of a refrigerator that was smarter than me. My life was fine. That is what I told myself every single morning when I looked in the mirror. Sarah, you are fine. You got the house. You got the calm life. You got the garden out back that you pretend to care about. But then the mailman knocked on the door and handed me an envelope that looked like it had been through a war zone. The mailman was a young kid with headphones around his neck. He looked confused. He told me that this letter had been found stuck behind a sorting machine in a distribution center in Ohio. He said they were renovating the old building and found a whole crate of mail that slipped through the cracks decades ago. He actually laughed about it. He said it was like a time capsule. He asked me to sign for it because it was certified mail. Certified mail from 25 years ago. I signed his little digital pad with a shaking hand. I knew that handwriting. I would know that messy, jagged scrawl anywhere. It was Jack. My heart started hammering against my ribs like it was trying to break out of a cage. I sat down at the kitchen table. The wood felt cold under my elbows. The envelope was yellowed and stained with grease, or maybe just the grime of a quarter century. The stamp in the corner cost 33 cents. It was postmarked June 14, 1999. I felt like I was going to throw up. June 14th. That was the day he left. That was the day my life split into two pieces. There was the before and there was the after. In the before I was wild and I was in love and I believed that the world was something we could conquer. In the after I was broken and small and I learned that people leave you no matter how much they promise they want. I did not open it right away. I just stared at his name in the corner. Jack Miller. I closed my eyes and suddenly I was not 47 years old anymore. I was 22. I could smell the cheap cologne he used to wear and the scent of stale tobacco smoke on his leather jacket. Jack was the kind of guy your mother warned you about and your father wanted to fight. He drove a beat-up Chevy that sounded like a dying animal, and he had eyes that looked like they had seen too much for a kid from a small town. We were inseparable. That is the only word for it. We were two halves of the same messy soul. We grew up in a town where the factory shut down and the hope dried up and everyone just sort of settled for whatever scraps they could get. But not Jack. Jack had fire in his belly. He used to take me up to the water tower on the edge of town and we would sit there with our legs dangling over the edge watching the sun go down over the dead cornfields. He would tell me about California. He was obsessed with the ocean. He said he wanted to go somewhere where the land ended and there was nothing but blue water for thousands of miles. He said we were going to open a little shop, or maybe he would fix cars and I would paint. It did not matter what we did as long as we did not die in that town. I believed him. I believed every single word that came out of his mouth because when he looked at me I felt like I was the only person on the planet. But then things got hard. My dad got sick. The medical bills started piling up on the kitchen counter like snowdrifts. I was working double shifts at the diner just to help my mom keep the lights on. Jack was working construction and coming home with his hands raw and bleeding. We were tired. We were so tired and we were so young. The town started to feel like a trap. The walls were closing in. Jack started getting restless. He got into a few fights at the local bar. He started talking faster and looking over his shoulder. He said he had saved up enough cash for us to go. He said it was now or never. I told him I could not leave my dad. Not yet. I told him to wait. Just a few more months. We had a fight. It was a screaming match in the parking lot of the diner while the rain came down sideways. I told him he was being selfish. He told me I was scared. He said if we stayed here we would turn into our parents. He said we would rot. He drove off that night with his tires screeching and I stood there in the rain crying until my apron was soaked through. I thought he would come back. He always came back. We would fight and scream and break things, and then he would show up at my window in the middle of the night and hold me until I stopped shaking. But that time he did not come back. The next day I went to his apartment, but it was empty. His landlord said he packed a bag and left. He said Jack paid his rent through the end of the month and just took off. I waited. I waited by the phone for weeks. Every time it rang I jumped. Every time a car drove past my house I ran to the window. I thought maybe he went to cool off. I thought maybe he went to scout out a place for us. But the silence stretched out. Days turned into weeks and weeks turned into months. The rumors started flying around town. People said he went to Florida. People said he got arrested in Texas. People said he found some other girl and forgot all about me. That was the one that killed me. The idea that I was just baggage he decided to leave behind. I eventually stopped waiting. I had to. My dad passed away that winter and I had to be strong for my mom. I buried my grief for Jack underneath my grief for my father. I put it in a box and I nailed it shut. I met a nice guy named Mark 3 years later. Mark was safe. Mark was an accountant who never raised his voice and never drove too fast. We got married. We moved to the suburbs. We had a life that looked perfect on paper. But sometimes late at night when Mark was asleep beside me I would lie awake and wonder where Jack was. I would wonder if he ever made it to the ocean. I would wonder if he ever thought about the girl he left standing in the rain. I looked down at the letter on my kitchen table. The paper was fragile. It felt like if I breathed on it too hard it would turn to dust. I grabbed a butter knife from the drawer. My hands were shaking so bad I almost cut myself. I slid the knife under the flap and sliced it open. The sound of the tearing paper was like a gunshot in the quiet kitchen. I pulled out a single sheet of lined notebook paper. It was folded into a small square. I unfolded it carefully. The ink was blue ballpoint. It was smudged in a few places like maybe he had been sweating when he wrote it. Or maybe he had been crying. I took a deep breath and I started to read. My dearest Sarah. I know we fought. I know you said you can't leave yet. I know you are scared and I know you are trying to do the right thing by your folks. You have always been the good one. You have always been the one with the big heart who tries to save everyone. That is why I love you. That is why I have loved you since we were 6 years old and you punched that kid for making fun of my sneakers. But Sarah, I can't stay here. I feel it in my bones. If I stay here another week I am going to die. Not literally, but the part of me that dreams is going to die. And I can't let that happen to us. I can't watch the light go out of your eyes. I see it fading every day you work at that diner. I see you getting smaller. So I am doing something crazy. I bought 2 tickets for the Greyhound bus leaving tomorrow morning at 8. It goes straight to Los Angeles. I have a cousin out there who says he can get me work on the docks. It ain't glamorous, but it is near the water. I am going to be at the station tomorrow morning. I am going to wait for you. If you are not there by 8:15 I am going to get on that bus. But I know you will come. I know you feel it too. We belong together, Sarah. We are not like these other people. We are fire. Please come with me. Just pack a bag and leave the rest. We will figure it out. We always figure it out. If you don't show up I will understand. I will assume you chose this life. I will assume you chose to stay safe. And I promise I will never bother you again. I will disappear and let you live the life you want. I won't drag you down with me. But God, I hope you show up. I love you more than I love breathing. Yours forever, Jack. I dropped the letter. It floated down to the floor and landed near my foot. The room was spinning. I had to grab the edge of the table to keep from falling out of my chair. He did not abandon me. He did not just run away because he was tired of me. He asked me to come. He waited for me. He sat at that dirty bus station in 1999 watching the door and praying that I would walk through it. And I never came. Because I never got the letter. He thought I ignored him. He thought I chose the town over him. He thought I chose safety over love. He wrote that he would never bother me again if I did not show up, and he kept his promise. He kept his word for 25 years. I let out a sound that was half scream and half sob. It tore out of my throat and echoed off the sterile white cabinets. He waited for me. I imagined him sitting on those plastic benches checking his watch. 7:30. 7:45. 8 o'clock. The bus driver revving the engine. The last call for boarding. Jack looking at the door one last time. His heart breaking in his chest. Thinking I did not love him enough to take the leap. And me. Me sitting at home crying into my pillow thinking he did not love me enough to say goodbye. We had both been walking around for 25 years carrying a wound that was based on a lie. A mistake. A piece of paper that got stuck behind a machine in Ohio. I looked at the clock on the stove. It was 2 in the afternoon. Mark would be home at 6. He would ask me how my day was. He would talk about his golf game. We would eat chicken and watch the news and go to bed. I could not do it. I stood up and paced around the kitchen island. My brain was firing on all cylinders. I felt alive in a way I had not felt in 2 decades. It was a terrifying, painful kind of alive, but it was real. Where was he? If he went to Los Angeles back then, was he still there? Did he stay? Did he find the ocean? I ran to the living room and grabbed my laptop. I sat on the couch and opened a search browser. My fingers hovered over the keys. Jack Miller. Do you know how many Jack Millers there are in the world? Thousands. I needed more. I typed in Jack Miller, Los Angeles. Still too many. I tried to remember the cousin. He mentioned a cousin in the letter. What was his name? Jack used to talk about his family sometimes, but he was not close with them. Think, Sarah, think. Bobby. No. Billy. Benny. Benny. That was it. Benny Miller. He was older. I typed in Benny Miller, Los Angeles. A few results came up. An obituary from 2 years ago. Benjamin Miller. I clicked on it. My heart sank. But then I read the survivors. Survived by his wife Linda and his cousin Jack Miller of San Diego. San Diego. He was in San Diego. That was close to the ocean. He made it. I searched for Jack Miller in San Diego. I found a website for a mechanic shop. Miller Custom Cycles. There was a photo on the About Us page. I zoomed in on the picture. It was him. He was older. His hair was gray and he had lines around his eyes. He had a beard now. But it was him. He was leaning against a motorcycle with his arms crossed. He looked tough. He looked weathered. But he still had those eyes. I stared at the screen until my eyes burned. He looked good. He looked like he had built a life. Did he have a wife? Did he have kids? The website did not say. I looked at the phone number listed at the bottom of the page. It was a business line. I could call him. I could pick up my phone right now and dial those 10 digits and hear his voice. But what would I say? Hey Jack, it is me, Sarah. I just got your letter. Sorry, I am 25 years late. It sounded insane. He probably hated me. Or worse, he probably did not think about me at all. He probably moved on a long time ago. He probably looked back on our time together as a foolish high school romance that did not mean anything. But the letter said otherwise. I love you more than I love breathing. You do not just get over that. You do not just shut that off. I looked around my living room. I looked at the beige carpet and the beige curtains and the framed photos of me and Mark smiling politely at various weddings. I was drowning. I had been drowning for 25 years and I did not even know it until this moment. I walked back into the kitchen and picked up the letter from the floor. I folded it carefully along the original creases. I put it back in the envelope. I went upstairs to the bedroom. I pulled a suitcase out of the back of the closet. I did not know what I was doing. I was moving on instinct. I was moving on the fuel of a 22-year-old girl who just woke up from a long coma. I threw some clothes in the bag. Jeans. T-shirts. The leather jacket I still had from back then, even though it was a little tight now. I went to the bathroom and splashed cold water on my face. I looked at myself in the mirror. I looked different than I did back then. I had wrinkles. I had gray hairs that I dyed brown every 6 weeks. But underneath that I saw the ghost of the girl who used to sit on the water tower. She was still in there. She was screaming to be let out. I walked downstairs and wrote a note for Mark. Mark, something happened. I have to go away for a few days to figure some things out. Don't worry about me. I will call you when I can. Sarah. It was cruel. I knew it was cruel. Mark was a good man and he did not deserve this. But I could not lie to him. I could not sit there across the dinner table and pretend that my world had not just turned upside down. I walked out to my car. It was a sensible sedan. Not exactly a getaway vehicle, but it would have to do. I got in and threw the bag in the passenger seat. I put the letter on the dashboard. I punched the address of Miller Custom Cycles into my GPS. 2,000 miles. 30 hours of driving. I turned the key in the ignition. The engine purred to life. I was terrified. My hands were gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles were white. What if he turned me away? What if he was married? What if he looked at me and saw a stranger? But I had to know. I put the car in drive and pulled out of the driveway. I did not look back at the house. I just looked forward at the road stretching out in front of me. I was finally going to the station. I was 25 years late, but I was coming. The drive was a blur. I drove until my eyes hurt. I drank energy drinks and ate gas station sandwiches. I slept in rest stops for a few hours at a time, curled up in the back seat. Every mile I put between me and my old life felt like a layer of skin shedding off. I thought about what I would say to him. I rehearsed speeches in my head. I yelled at the windshield. I cried listening to old songs on the radio that reminded me of him. By the time I hit the California state line, I was a wreck. I was exhausted and I smelled like stale coffee and anxiety. I reached San Diego in the late afternoon. The sun was golden and the air smelled like salt and exhaust. It was exactly how he described it. I followed the GPS through the city streets. My heart was in my throat. Miller Custom Cycles was in an industrial part of town. It was a brick building with a big garage door that was rolled up. There were motorcycles parked out front. Chrome gleaming in the sun. I pulled my car into a spot across the street. I turned off the engine. I sat there for a long time. I just watched the shop. I saw guys in greasy coveralls walking around. I heard the sound of a wrench clanking against metal. Then I saw him. He walked out of the office door holding a clipboard. He was wearing a black t-shirt and jeans covered in oil stains. He looked strong. He walked with a slight limp that I did not recognize. He was talking to one of the other mechanics. He laughed at something the guy said. It was a deep rasping laugh that I felt in my chest even from across the street. He looked happy. That was the thing that scared me the most. He looked like he was okay. He looked like he had survived the heartbreak and come out the other side. If I walked over there, I was going to drop a bomb on his life. I was going to rip open a scar that had 25 years to heal. Maybe I should just turn around. Maybe I should drive back to my beige house and my beige life and burn the letter. Maybe it was better to let him be happy. I put my hand on the door handle. I hesitated. Then Jack looked up. It was like he felt eyes on him. He looked across the street. He looked right at my car. The windshield was glaring from the sun, so I knew he could not see me clearly. He just saw a car parked there. But he stopped laughing. He lowered the clipboard. He took a step forward. He squinted his eyes. He tilted his head to the side in a way that he used to do when he was trying to figure something out. I stopped breathing. He took another step. He was walking toward the street now. He was walking toward me. I had a choice. I could start the car and drive away. I could disappear forever. Or I could get out. I looked at the letter on the dashboard. We are fire. I opened the car door. I stepped out onto the pavement. The wind caught my hair and blew it across my face. I pushed it back. Jack stopped in the middle of the street. A car honked at him, but he did not even flinch. He just stared at me. I saw the color drain out of his face. I saw the clipboard drop from his hand and clatter onto the asphalt. He looked like he was seeing a ghost. I stood there by my car door. My legs felt like jelly. Jack, I whispered. He could not possibly hear me over the traffic, but I said it anyway. He opened his mouth, but no sound came out. He took a shaky breath. He took another step toward me. Then another. He was running. He was running across the street, dodging a delivery truck. He hit the sidewalk on my side and he stopped about 5 feet away from me. He was breathing hard. His eyes were wide and wild. He looked at my face. He looked at my hands. He looked at my old leather jacket that I was wearing. Sarah? His voice was rougher than I remembered. It sounded like gravel and whiskey. Hi Jack, I said. My voice cracked. You're here, he said. He sounded like he was in shock. Am I dreaming? Did I fall off a bike and hit my head? No, I said. You're not dreaming. He shook his head. But, it's been 25 years, I said. Why? He asked. The word came out like a plea. Why now? Why today? I reached into the car and grabbed the envelope. I held it out to him. Because I just got this, I said. He looked at the envelope. He looked at his own handwriting. He looked at the postmark. He frowned. I sent that. I sent that the day I left. I know, I said. It got lost. It was stuck behind a machine at the post office. The mailman brought it to me on Tuesday. Jack looked up from the letter to my face. The realization hit him like a physical blow. His knees actually buckled a little. You never got it, he whispered. No. So you didn't just ignore me? No, Jack. I waited. I waited for you to come back. I thought you abandoned me. I thought you didn't want me, he said. His eyes filled up with tears. I sat at that bus station, Sarah. I sat there until they forced me to get on the bus. I thought you realized you were better off without me. I was never better off without you, I said. Tears were streaming down my face now. I could not stop them. He closed the distance between us in one stride. He grabbed me. He pulled me into him so hard it knocked the wind out of me. His arms wrapped around me like steel bands. He smelled like motor oil and soap in the past. I buried my face in his chest. I held on to him like he was a life raft in a hurricane. I'm so sorry, he sobbed into my hair. I'm so sorry, Sarah. I should have come back. I should have called. I was just so hurt. I was so stupid. It's okay, I said. I'm here now. He pulled back and looked at my face. He cupped my cheeks in his rough hands. His thumbs wiped away my tears. You're beautiful, he said. You're exactly the same. I'm old, I laughed through the tears. We're both old, he said. A small smile touched his lips. It was the smile. The one that used to make me do crazy things. So, he said. He took a deep breath. You drove all the way here? I had to. What about your life? Is there someone? The question hung in the air. There is, I said honestly. I'm married, Jack. His name is Mark. Jack flinched. He dropped his hands from my face. He took a half step back. The light in his eyes dimmed a little. Oh, he said. Right. Of course. It's been 25 years. I didn't expect. I left him a note, I said quickly. I told him I had to go. To come here? To find you. Jack looked at me. He looked torn. He looked like a man who had just been given a winning lottery ticket but was told he couldn't cash it. Sarah, he said softly. I have a life too. My stomach dropped. Of course he did. I was stupid to think otherwise. You're married? I asked. My voice was barely a whisper. I was, he said. She passed away 4 years ago. Cancer. I'm so sorry, Jack. She was a good woman, he said. She knew about you. I told her everything. She knew there was a part of me that was always waiting for a girl from a small town in the Midwest. He looked down at his boots, then back up at me. But I have a daughter, he said. A daughter? Yeah. Her name is Lily. She's 20. She's in college at UCLA. He reached into his back pocket and pulled out a wallet. He opened it and showed me a picture. A beautiful girl with dark hair, and Jack's eyes was smiling at the camera. She's beautiful, I said. She's the best thing I ever did, Jack said. He put the wallet away. So, I said. Where does that leave us? We stood there on the sidewalk while the world kept moving around us. Cars drove by. People walked their dogs. The sun kept shining. But for us, time had stopped again. I don't know, Jack said. I really don't know, Sarah. We can't just erase 25 years. You have a husband. I have a business and a kid. We aren't the same people who sat on that water tower. I know, I said. The adrenaline was wearing off and the reality was setting in. I was a married woman standing on a street corner in San Diego with an old flame. This was messy. This was complicated. But, Jack said. He stepped closer again. He took my hand. His palm was warm and calloused. I know one thing. What? I know that I have missed you every single day since June 14, 1999. And I know that I am not going to let you walk away again. Not without talking. Not without seeing if the fire is still there. I squeezed his hand. It's still there, Jack, I said. It never went out. Okay, he said. He let out a long breath. Okay. Let's go get some coffee. There's a diner down the street. It's terrible, but the coffee is hot. I love terrible diners, I said. I know, he smiled. I remember. We started walking down the street. He did not let go of my hand. I did not know what was going to happen next. I did not know how I was going to explain this to Mark. I did not know if Jack and I could actually fit into each other's lives after all this time. But as we walked toward the diner with the ocean breeze hitting our faces, I realized something. For the first time in 25 years, I wasn't just existing. I was living. And whatever happened next, I knew I was exactly where I was supposed to be. The diner was exactly like he said. It was a dive with cracked vinyl seats and a waitress named Brenda who looked like she had been working there since the Reagan administration. We sat in a booth in the back corner. The coffee was bitter and hot, and it was the best thing I had ever tasted. We spent the first hour just staring at each other. It was like we were trying to memorize the new versions of our faces. I traced the lines around his eyes with my gaze. I looked at the gray in his beard. He looked at my hands. He looked at the way I held my cup. We talked about the small things first. He told me about his business. He started it in a garage with one toolbox and now he had 3 guys working for him. He told me he built bikes for some minor celebrities. He was proud of that. I told him about my garden. I told him about the book club I joined just to have an excuse to drink wine on Tuesdays. It felt shallow. We were skimming the surface of an ocean that was miles deep. Then Jack put his cup down. The ceramic clinked against the formica table. So tell me about him, Jack said. Tell me about Mark. I flinched. I did not want to bring Mark into this booth. Mark belonged in the beige house with the perfectly manicured lawn. He did not belong here in the grease and the grit with Jack. He is a good man, I said. I stared at my black coffee. He is kind. He remembers anniversaries. He takes care of my mom when she visits. He has never raised a hand to me. He has never even raised his voice really. Jack nodded slowly. He sounds safe. He is, I said. He is the safest person I know. And do you love him? Jack asked. He did not ask it with jealousy. He asked it like he really needed to know the answer. He looked at me with those intense eyes that saw right through my skin. I took a deep breath. The truth was stuck in my throat like a fishbone. I love him, I said. But not like I loved you. Not like I love you. I did not mean to say it in the present tense, but it just slipped out. With Mark it is a partnership, I continued. We are a team. We pay bills together and we plan vacations and we watch movies. But with you, Jack, it was like breathing fire. It was like I was not alive until you walked into the room. I have never felt that with Mark. I have just been content. Jack reached across the table and took my hand again. Content is not enough, Sarah, he said. Not for you. You were never meant to just be content. You were meant to burn. I pulled my hand away. I felt guilty. I felt like I was cheating just by sitting there. But I made a vow, Jack, I said. I stood in a church and I promised to stay with him until death. And I promised to wait for you, Jack said. His voice got hard. I promised to take you away. We both broke promises, Sarah. But not because we wanted to. Because the world played a cruel joke on us. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the letter again. He smoothed it out on the table between us. This changes everything, he said. If you had gotten this letter, you would be here. You would have been here for 25 years. We would have had a life. Maybe Lily would be your daughter. The mention of his daughter hit me hard. But she is not, I said. She is someone else's daughter. You had a life, Jack. You loved your wife. I did, he said. I loved Linda. She saved me when I was drowning. But she knew. She always knew she was the second great love of my life. Not the first. We sat there in silence for a long time. The waitress came by and refilled our mugs. She gave us a look like she knew exactly what was happening. I need to call him, I said finally. I need to call Mark. Jack nodded. Go. I will be here. I walked outside. The sun was setting now. The sky was turning purple and orange over the silhouette of the city. I leaned against the brick wall of the diner and dialed the number. It rang 4 times. Hello? Mark's voice was frantic. Sarah? Oh my God. Sarah, are you okay? Where are you? I found your note. I have been calling and calling. I closed my eyes. Hearing his voice made my stomach turn. He sounded so scared. He sounded so decent. I am okay, Mark, I said. I am safe. Where are you? He asked. The police said they could not do anything because you are an adult and you left a note, but I was about to hire a private investigator. Sarah, what is going on? Are you having a breakdown? Maybe, I said. I felt a tear slide down my cheek. Mark, I need you to listen to me. I am listening, honey. Just tell me where you are and I will come get you. No, I said. Do not come get me. I took a breath that rattled in my chest. Do you remember I told you about a guy I knew back home? A guy named Jack. There was a silence on the other end of the line. A heavy, thick silence. The high school boyfriend? Mark asked. The one who ran off. He did not run off, I said. He wrote me a letter, Mark. He asked me to go with him. The letter got lost in the mail for 25 years. It showed up on Tuesday. Sarah, Mark said. His voice was careful now, like he was talking to someone standing on a ledge. That was 25 years ago. That has nothing to do with us. That is ancient history. It is not history to me, I said. I am with him, Mark. I am in San Diego. The silence this time lasted so long I thought the call dropped. You are what? Mark whispered. I drove out here to find him. Sarah, come home, Mark said. His voice broke. You are having a midlife crisis. This is crazy. You are going to throw away 15 years of marriage for a ghost? For a piece of paper? I am not throwing it away, I said. I am waking up. Mark, you deserve someone who loves you with her whole soul. You deserve someone who does not look out the window and wonder what if. I have been pretending for a long time. I have been pretending that I am happy being safe. But I am not. Sarah, please, he begged. We can go to therapy. We can fix this. Just come home. I can't, I said. I am sorry, Mark. I am so sorry. You are a wonderful man and I never wanted to hurt you. But I can't come back to that house. I can't go back to sleep. I hung up the phone. I stood there shaking. I felt like a monster. I had just shattered a good man's heart. I had just nuked my entire life with a 30-second phone call. But I also felt lighter. The weight I had been carrying around since I was 22 was gone. I wiped my face and walked back into the diner. Jack looked up when I walked in. He saw my face. He knew. You did it? He asked. I nodded. I sat down. I am going to hell, I said. Jack reached across the table and grabbed both of my hands. No, he said. You are not. You are just finally being honest. And sometimes honesty hurts like hell. We stayed in San Diego for 3 days. I got a room at a cheap motel near the beach. Jack stayed at his place, but he came to see me every morning. We walked on the beach. We rode on the back of his motorcycle up the coast highway. I felt the wind whipping through my hair and I held onto his waist, and for the first time in forever I felt young. But it was not all perfect. It was awkward sometimes. We had to learn each other all over again. He snored now. I was picky about my food. He had a temper when traffic was bad. I got quiet when I was overwhelmed. We were not the same kids who sat on the water tower. We were damaged adults with baggage. On the 3rd day I met Lily. I was terrified. We met at the shop. She walked in carrying a backpack and wearing a college sweatshirt. She looked so much like Jack it was scary. She stopped when she saw me. She looked from me to Jack. Dad? She said. Is this her? Jack nodded. Yeah, kiddo. This is Sarah. Lily looked me up and down. I felt like I was being inspected by a judge. I heard about the letter, she said. Dad told me. That is pretty crazy. It is, I said. My voice was shaky. She crossed her arms. So what happens now? Are you going to stay? Or are you going to break his heart again? Lily, Jack warned. Be nice. I am just asking, she said. She looked me right in the eye. My mom was a great person. She loved him. They built this life together. You can't just waltz in here because of some old male and think you fit. She was right. That was the thing that kept keeping me up at night. Did I fit? Or was I just a tourist in Jack's life? I don't know if I fit, Lily, I said honestly. I really don't. I have a husband back in Ohio. I have a house. I have a whole life that I blew up to come here. I am scared to death. Lily's face softened just a fraction. Why did you come then? She asked. Because 25 years ago I made a mistake, I said. I let fear make my decisions for me. And I spent every day since then regretting it. I don't want to die with regrets. Even if this doesn't work out. Even if your dad gets sick of me in a week. I had to know. Lily looked at Jack. She saw the way he was looking at me. She saw the hope in his face that had probably been missing since her mom died. She sighed. She walked over to the coffee machine in the corner of the shop. Well, she said. If you are going to stay, you should know that Dad is terrible at grocery shopping. You are going to have to handle the food situation or you will eat takeout tacos every night. I laughed. It was a release of tension that I desperately needed. I can handle the food, I said. That night Jack and I sat on the balcony of his small apartment. We were drinking beers and watching the city lights. So, he said. You met the boss. She didn't kick you out. That is a good sign. She is amazing, I said. You did a good job, Jack. I had help, he said quietly. We sat in silence for a while. The air was cool. Sarah, he said. Yeah? What are we doing? He asked. I mean, really? Are you going back to Ohio? Are you going to get a divorce? I looked at my beer bottle. I ran my thumb over the condensation. I can't go back, I said. He is done with me. And I don't blame him. I broke the trust. Once you break it, you can't glue it back together. So you are staying? Jack asked. His voice was hopeful but cautious. I don't know where I am going to stay, I said. I can't just move in here, Jack. It is too fast. We need to date. We need to see if we actually like each other or if we just like the memory of each other. Jack smiled. I like that, he said. I would love to take you on a date. A real date. Not a high school hangout. I smiled back. Because 25 years ago I made a mistake, I said. I let fear make my decisions for me. And I spent every day since then regretting it. I don't want to die with regrets. Even if this doesn't work out. Even if your dad gets sick of me in a week. I had to know. Lily looked at Jack. She saw the way he was looking at me. She saw the hope in his face that had probably been missing since her mom died. She sighed. She walked over to the coffee machine in the corner of the shop. Well, she said. If you are going to stay, you should know that Dad is terrible at grocery shopping. You are going to have to handle the food situation or you will eat takeout tacos every night. I laughed. It was a release of tension that I desperately needed. I can handle the food, I said. That night Jack and I sat on the balcony of his small apartment. We were drinking beers and watching the city lights. So, he said. You met the boss. She didn't kick you out. That is a good sign. She is amazing, I said. You did a good job, Jack. I had help, he said quietly. We sat in silence for a while. The air was cool. Sarah, he said. Yeah? What are we doing? He asked. I mean, really? Are you going back to Ohio? Are you going to get a divorce? I looked at my beer bottle. I ran my thumb over the condensation. I can't go back, I said. He is done with me. And I don't blame him. I broke the trust. Once you break it, you can't glue it back together. So you are staying? Jack asked. His voice was hopeful but cautious. I don't know where I am going to stay, I said. I can't just move in here, Jack. It is too fast. We need to date. We need to see if we actually like each other or if we just like the memory of each other. Jack smiled. I like that, he said. I would love to take you on a date. A real date. Not a high school hangout. I smiled back. But I am going to stay in San Diego, I said. I am going to find an apartment. I am going to get a job. I used to paint, remember? Maybe I will try to do that again. You were a great painter, Jack said. I am going to figure out who Sarah is, I said. Because for 25 years I have been Mark's wife or my mother's daughter or the girl who got left behind. I need to be just me for a while. And I want to be me near you. Jack put his beer down. He stood up and pulled me out of my chair. He wrapped his arms around me. He kissed me. It was not a desperate kiss like the one on the street. It was a slow promise. It tasted like hops and the ocean and a second chance. I will help you, he whispered against my lips. I will help you find an apartment. I will help you move your stuff. We will figure it out. We are fire, I whispered back. Yeah, he said. We are fire. The next few months were the hardest of my life. I flew back to Ohio once to sign papers. It was awful. Mark wouldn't even look at me. He sat across the table with his lawyer and his face was like stone. I cried the whole way back to the airport. I left the house. I left the garden. I left everything I had built. I arrived in San Diego with 2 suitcases and a bank account that was rapidly draining. I got a tiny studio apartment 20 minutes from Jack's shop. It had a leaky faucet and the neighbors were loud, but the light in the morning was beautiful. I got a job waitressing at a cafe near the beach. It was humbling to be 47 and wiping tables again, but I didn't mind. I liked the hustle. I liked talking to strangers. Jack and I dated. He picked me up on Friday nights. We went to movies. We went to dinner. We went for long rides on his bike. We fought sometimes. We fought about where to eat or what movie to watch. We fought about his smoking. But we always made up. We did not have the explosive fights of our youth. We had the disagreements of 2 adults who knew how precious time was. One night about 6 months after I arrived, I was at my apartment painting. I had turned the corner of the living room into a studio. I was working on a canvas of the ocean at sunset. There was a knock on the door. It was Jack. He was holding a pizza box and a 6-pack of beer. Delivery, he said. I let him in. He kissed me and put the food on the tiny table. He looked at my painting. That is good, he said. That is really good, Sarah. It is getting there, I said. He sat down on my mismatched couch. He looked nervous. Jack never looked nervous. What is wrong? I asked. Is it Lily? No, he said. Lily is fine. She actually asked if you wanted to come over for Sunday dinner. She is making lasagna. Which means she is going to burn lasagna, but the thought counts. I smiled. I would love to. Jack took a breath. He reached into his pocket. I froze. Was he going to propose? It was too soon. We were just figuring this out. But he didn't pull out a ring. He pulled out an envelope. It was a fresh white envelope. It had my name on it in his messy scrawl. What is this? I asked. He handed it to me. Open it, he said. I opened the envelope. Inside was a letter on lined notebook paper. Just like the old one. I started to read. My dearest Sarah. I am not writing this because I am leaving. I am writing this because I am staying. I am writing this because I want you to have a letter that actually arrives on time. These last 6 months have been the best of my life. Watching you find yourself has been like watching a flower bloom in the desert. You are stronger than you know. You are braver than I ever was. I know we lost 25 years. I know we can never get that time back. I mourn that time every day. But I also know that maybe we needed to go through the fire to get here. Maybe we needed to be broken so we could fit together this perfectly. I don't want to run away with you anymore. I want to stand still with you. I want to grow old with you. I want to argue about what to watch on TV with you for the next 30 years. I love you more than I love breathing. Yours forever, Jack. I looked up at him. My eyes were blurry with tears. Jack was smiling. A crooked boyish smile. Did it arrive on time? He asked. It arrived right on time, I said. I went over to the couch and sat next to him. I leaned my head on his shoulder. I could feel his heart beating steady and strong. I looked around my tiny apartment with my half-finished painting and my cold pizza. It was not the perfect life I had in Ohio. It was messy and uncertain, and sometimes it was hard. But it was mine. And it was his. I thought about the girl on the water tower. I thought about how she used to dream of the ocean. She finally made it. She took the long way around. She took a detour that lasted half a lifetime. But she made it. I folded the letter and put it in my pocket. I knew I would keep it forever. I would put it in a box next to the old yellowed one. One letter marked the beginning of the end. And this one marked the beginning of forever. I love you, Jack, I said. He kissed my forehead. I know, he said. Now let's eat this pizza before it gets cold. We ate. We laughed. We watched the sun go down over the Pacific Ocean. And for the first time in 25 years, the silence in the room wasn't loud at all. It was just peace.